Hey folks, Mike Dirubbo. I'm back here. I'm very excited today to have one of the great guitar players in the world and a great friend of mine and just a great guy in general, Mr. Peter Bernstein. Hey Pete, how you doing, man? I'm glad you could make it here today, man. Yeah.
Easy. Man, we're neighbors, man.
That's kind of
man.
that's true, man. Yeah. So I usually start off just asking folks. Well, first of all, you're a New York City native,
I'm a
right?
New York native from the island of Manhattan.
Really? Nice.
Yeah. I lived here first few years of my life, and we moved to Chicago, and back to New York, and then my dad got a job overseas when I was like in, let's see, I guess it was fifth, sixth, seventh grade, or fourth, fifth, sixth grade,
Okay.
and then we came back, and so, but I'm basically a New Yorker.
All right. Yeah, man.
Not too many of us,
Uh-huh.
but yeah, I never left.
Well, it's the place to be, man. I really do feel like it is kind of the center of the jazz universe, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
No offense to any other places in the world.
there's
but-
some great scenes, great cities out there with really strong communities and stuff, but
Yeah.
New York is just the greatest concentration of the heaviest cats. I mean,
Yeah.
that's the only way, it's an equation.
Yeah,
It's the most of them, most of every instrument, like,
Yeah.
that's the thing about certain scenes, like, if they have some good rhythm sections, they can have a nice scene, but that's kind of
Yeah.
prerequisite
Yeah.
to have a good scene, so.
Yeah. And part of it,
And
you think,
gigs.
is the schools too? The schools and the clubs?
Well, there's more schools. When I
Yeah.
was getting ready to go to, because I just figured out, in late in high school, around 10th grade, 11th grade, I just wanted to play and really wanted to study jazz. There weren't that many options. There was Berkeley and New England Conservatory, and the only school in New York was Manhattan School of Music, and you had to play classical guitar. You couldn't be a jazz guitar, even though they had a jazz program. The
This would
guitar.
have been the 80s then?
This
like?
was mid-'80s. I graduated
Mid-eighties.
high school in '85, so fall of '85, I went to Rutgers,
Okay.
and that was in Jersey because there wasn't the new school and
Wow.
all these other places. And, well, there was William Patterson. I went there after a year at Rutgers, but I was just trying to meet musicians and get to play with people, and it was a good time actually.
Yeah. So before that, did you grow up in a household with the hearing jazz, or were any of your parents
No,
into the music? Yep.
they're not musical at all. I
Okay.
would actually say my mom was an artist, so she was very artistic and creative, and
Yeah.
my dad is a writer, retired journalist, so he's a writer. Put documentary
It's
films
like
together.
Stevie D's dad was a journalist
Yeah,
as well.
really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Newspaper guy or TV?
No, newspaper.
Wow,
Yeah.
okay.
That's why Stevie D moved around a lot in
Yeah,
his early
yeah,
life as well.
yeah. So my parents were creative people, but not, I could say, unmusical,
Mm-hmm.
like non-musical, like
Okay, I could dig
like
that.
tone deaf and can't find 2 and 4. So that's where I come from. But they were, they're creative, and but they had some jazz records. They had the Beatles. They had Bob Dylan. They had
Yeah,
different things.
yeah.
Simon and Garfunkel, all kinds of stuff they listened to. But they
Mhm.
had a Dizzy Gillespie. It was on a cassette. Dizzy Gillespie big band, and they had a Charles Mingus record from the late '70s, which probably got it when it was new, called Changes.
Oh, yeah.
It was Changes 1 and Changes 2. So I had those, and I used to love that. I checked my sitting into.
Is Charles McPherson on that?
No, it's George Adams and Jack Walrath.
Oh,
And
wow.
Don Pullen. That's the
Oh,
band.
wow,
Yeah,
wow.
from like late '70s, so mid '70s.
Wow.
So those were the, and then I remember hearing Louis Armstrong, and I got really into ragtime music because I was of the age when the movie The Sting came out, and there was the ragtime
Oh, yeah.
renaissance, and everybody's trying to play the entertainer.
Mm-hmm.
E.B. Blake had a
Yeah.
big, resurgence in his career, and so I remember just kind of wanted to play the piano because I love the sound of ragtime and wanted to play that stuff, and so I just,
Did you have a piano in the house?
yeah,
growing up?
they got a little spin-it piano, and I got lessons, and yeah, I was kind of into it. And then we moved overseas.
Mhm.
I was still taking piano lessons, but I saw some kids at school playing guitars, and I was like, that looks fun.
Yeah.
So I kind of like, let me try that. And
Where were you living overseas?
in Israel, actually. My
Oh,
dad,
no kidding.
yeah, got a job overseas, living in Tel Aviv,
Wow.
with CBS News. So we just kind of, it was more like a suburban experience, like coming from New York.
Yeah.
It was kind of living in a suburb area, because it wasn't that built up suburb of Tel Aviv at that time, and there was the beach, and then there was a few places where there were
Yeah,
stores, and then
yeah.
there were just streets with like dunes, and then there'd be a house, and then there'd be another house, and there'd be more dunes.
Wow.
It was kind of just crazy. So we rode our bikes around and stuff. But I was still into music there, and got to start taking guitar lessons there, and just
Okay.
listen to rock and
Yeah.
blues, and got just kind of got into it, and then got into jazz kind of again got into jazz for real through the guitar, like hearing
Yeah.
about like who's Wes Montgomery, who's this guy,
Yeah.
Charlie Christian.
Were you playing? Did you start on a solid body? Or
Yeah,
what?
well, I started on an acoustic guitar,
Oh,
just
acoustic,
learning the
yeah.
chords, and then I got my first electric guitar was a Strat.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a big deal, man.
Yeah, yeah,
Because my hero was Jimi Hendrix, and
yeah,
that was the stuff, man.
yeah.
So to have a real Strat was deep, and then I just kind of got more into jazz, and it was. I played with a friend in high school, like he was like a singer-songwriter guy, and I'm trying to play little parts along with that,
Mhm.
just starting to get into. We were kind of getting into jazz together, listening to stuff,
Yeah.
getting fusion, and I remember
This
like,
was already back here in New York now?
this was high school, maybe 10th
Okay.
grade, so
You didn't go
I
to
remember-
LaGuardia though, did you?
No.
No.
it wasn't an artsy school.
Okay.
But yeah, so me and this guy won like the talent show. We played a couple of his songs, and maybe I got a little solo and jammed out or whatever.
Mhm.
And we won like a gift certificate to a record store, and we got a couple of records we were gonna share, and like we'd record on
Yeah,
cassette.
yeah.
So we got like Return to Forever record, and also a two for Kenny Burrell, John Coltrane.
Oh wow.
So
Wow.
that was all those tunes like with Tommy Flanagan, those records,
Yeah.
Cobb and Paul
Why
Chambers.
Was I Born? Is that
Yep,
the
that was
duo
the
they
first
do?
thing. That's
Yeah.
the first thing I heard. I was like, wow, Kenny. And then I was checking out Wes and
Yeah.
had a cassette of Wes and different things. And I went back to see who's this guy, Charlie Christian. Everyone says he's where it comes from for
Yeah,
electric guitar,
yeah,
and but I was just trying to put the pieces of it all together. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Were you? Did you kind of hear about Barry Harris already, or was that after?
That was maybe after. Yeah, I was maybe at Rutgers or William Patterson when I met William Ash and Ari Rowland.
Okay, yeah.
And they would go. They were like some of Barry's early students there.
Yeah.
That of my,
Yeah.
they had been going for a while. So
Yeah.
I remember, they took me there one time. It wasn't really an official class. It was just the three of us.
Okay.
And Barry was like eating lunch and teaching us this line over Lover.
Wow.
So that must have been, maybe I was already at William Patterson. It could have been like 85, 86 or something like that.
Okay.
And Barry was just singing us this line, played it when we couldn't hear the pitches, and just played it phrase by phrase
Wow.
over the descending. And I
Yeah.
just remember that. I still remember the first 16 bars, and I just remember that that's the masterful way of really just putting the notes inside the chords in a pretty way and a
Mhm.
rhythmic way.
Mhm.
That was very, but I didn't go enough to get the whole, lexicon
To
of,
be like a disciple.
of what it is, what it is and what it isn't, So
Yeah.
I every time Barry played at the Vanguard, I would go, or
Yeah.
wherever, Birdland, or hearing him,
Mhm.
Bradley's, all over the place. So I just enjoyed the
Okay.
music.
Yeah.
And every time it was just like undeniable greatness and just
Mhm.
complete, it's pure music,
Yeah.
And so, but that one lesson, and he came to the new school later on when I was a student there, and
Mhm.
he kind of did some of his thing, and roasted out all the piano players and everything, and it was great, But
So man, you went to William Patterson.
Yeah.
But you didn't finish there, and you
No.
transferred to New School.
Well,
What'd you
that
do?
was
What
later.
happened?
Yeah, that my college age. Rutgers for a year, and that
Okay.
was a great year. I studied with Ted Dunbar,
Oh,
and
no kidding.
he really changed my life. I would say he's probably, I don't know, maybe it was where I was at when I was able to appreciate almost what he was talking about, and I was like, that's the standard that he kind of set that I
Okay.
could work towards in terms
Yeah.
of just laying things out. But I only studied with him for a year, so I didn't, I avoid, because he had his disciples too, in a way. So it's kind of
Yeah.
like it was a rigorous 4-year program that he had, and I got the first year, and all the tunes you're supposed to learn and the philosophy. So, but I did change to go to William Patterson. I went to visit a friend of mine who was going to school there,
Yeah.
and they were playing in this. They were having sessions like until basically I think the music building closed at like 12
Yeah.
or 12:30 or something. It was like, and Rutgers, the building shut down at 8. We were having trouble trying to find places to play, and I just remember going to visit there and feeling like it's a more vibrant scene, you know.
Oh, okay.
And I heard Bill Stewart and some great players there.
So that's where you met Bill.
I met Bill Farnsworth, Doug Weiss, a lot of people that
Wow.
you know, Jesse Davis,
Oh,
you
he
know,
was there?
lifelong friends, man. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, like people that are really, you know,
And who was there at the time? Who were the main cats? Was this
teaching or
Yeah.
well, Rufus Reed was
Rufus?
running the program. It was
Okay.
Rufus Reed and this guy Martin Criven, Dr. Criven,
Mm-hmm.
and
Was
yeah,
David
some-
Dempsey there as well?
it was
already?
before him, I think.
Before him?
Yeah,
Okay.
because it was just that 1 year of 86.
And who was
Yeah.
guitar for you there? Did you
Harry
have a-
Lay was teaching there. He
Okay.
was really heavy and beautiful guy. Just, yeah, he was really great. Played, you know, got to see, like, I never saw anyone like, he could just like, he had such a freedom with chords and harmony.
Mm.
It was, you know, completely beyond. But I was like, that's, and the way he did it was really tasteful to me and beautiful. Like Ted Dunbar had a beautiful.
Yeah.
I loved his playing too. I got to hear Ted play a lot, like in lessons and stuff. But so yeah, these guys like really, you know, they're free with the language and
Mm-hmm.
inventing and connecting things in different ways and
Mm-hmm.
not stuck in their little shapes. So
Yeah.
seeing those guys like seeing someone do some stuff before you and not really sure how they're doing it. You know,
Yeah.
that's really important to have that. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
have someone just be like, I don't know what kind of pitch that was. You know what I mean? Like that kind of thing. Like I
Yeah.
have to, you know.
Yeah.
So. But I had a lot of teachers, not just guitar, that you know, I was lucky to go to these different schools and was around Kenny Barron at Rutgers, and the guy who ran the big band at Rutgers was Sahib Shahab. He had
Oh,
just
wow.
come back from living in Copenhagen for years,
Yeah.
and he ran the big band. That was cool. He brought his amazing music, and
Mm.
Rutgers was deep because they had some people come that were guests to play with the big band. Benny Carter came.
Oh wow.
You know, Jimmy Heath. These were like,
Yeah.
they definitely had that connection. I think because of the program being like started by Paul Jeffrey.
Right.
Like it was one of the first places where like the cats were teaching.
That's
It
true.
wasn't just some academic. It was like
Yeah.
it was Kenny Barron and Ted Dunbar,
Mm-hmm.
Ridley, I think, and Paul Jeffrey at first. You know, different people. They had Philly Joe out there. They had
Oh
all
my
these people
gosh, man.
came out there.
You
yeah.
were right at the cusp to still
Yeah.
be able to hear those cats
Yeah.
and see those guys.
Yeah.
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 And then you went to William Patterson, and then how
Then I
was
ended up at the new school. Well, the year I went to Patterson, my dad, still working for CBS News, got another overseas assignment. My little brother was still in high school, so the family moved to Paris
Mm.
in, I guess, the summer of '86.
With you as well.
No, I was going to school. I
Oh,
stayed
okay.
back and went to school at Patterson that year. And so, but after the year after Patterson, I just had a chance to go live with them. And I kind of
Okay.
thought, like, they're just there now. And Wayne, New Jersey will be there if I want to come back to it.
Exactly.
But this is a chance to go check out Paris. And the year I was at William Patterson, the new school started. That was the first year. So I never had classes on Fridays at Patterson, so I'd always take the bus in Thursday night, go hang at the new school on Fridays.
Okay.
And it was just Arnie Lawrence and whoever else he wanted to invite.
Yeah.
Totally loose, a whole different kind of school. But that was the beginning of like, well, there's going to be a school in New York with
Mhm.
New York, you know,
Wow.
access to
Yeah.
all the musicians to come in. And so that was the beginning. I was getting a taste of the new school, and that was starting. That's Goldings was going there, and that's where I met Spike, then Mike
You
Wilner.
You remember
and
what year that was?
That was '86. Was the beginning of
86,
the
okay.
new school, and Arnie finally kind of got it off the ground, and it was just like 12 people in the school,
Yeah.
and I would come on Fridays and just hang, you know.
So Spike was there, Mike. Yeah.
Mary, yeah, a few other people in that very first year, but then it just kind of like the next year was twice as many, and then it just kind of kept multiplying.
Yeah. Growing.
But I just, even though that was happening, I just kind of felt like, you know, my folks are in this incredible city,
Mhm.
and this is a chance for me to at least, you know, I was gonna go, like, I'll go for a few months and see if you know, maybe I'll come back to Patterson the second semester. It was a little bit loose,
Yeah.
and I kind of knew that, you know, jazz school is a little bit of, it's not like a real academic
Mhm.
career path. It's like, I kind of felt like I know more cats now that I've been to two schools, you know, than if
Yeah.
I had just stayed at Rutgers, you know, so.
Yeah.
It was good, just about meeting people and hearing different cats. But the Paris thing seemed like an opportunity that I'd be foolish to, you know, because they had a beautiful place, and I could kind of, they didn't want me to lose a whole year of college, just get me back in like another mindset of
Right.
so long ago. But and I said, yeah, that's right. I'll lose a whole year of half a year. So I took some classes at this like literature classes and stuff. So that was cool, and I was just going to sessions and going to see gigs in Paris. It was great. I mean, I knew I was given a gift. Like, I'm hanging with my folks, and like I can practice all the stuff that's been thrown at me over 2 years of jazz school that I'm really not able to, digest it all that quickly. So I was able to kind of go back over the Ted stuff, over the Harry Leahy stuff, and all the stuff that I just been exposed to. Playing with guys that can play fast, can play strong, and like just different experiences, and just trying to put it together, and was just starting to be able to like play with people, like keep the form and stuff, and like not feel like
It's hard for me
getting
to
into
imagine that, Peter.
No, man, keeping the form, just not, just coming out of like the guitar where you kind of learn, if you're coming from blues and that kind of thing, it's kind of a very tonal thing. You're not necessarily connected with the whole playing lines over moving harmony.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys, especially guitars, they're still kind of playing lines on chords as they go by instead of like trying to weave a line through the harmony, like linear music, like Bach or whatever. And then you had jazz and, of course, bebop being the most rhythmically complex of linear music, just with the added the rhythmic element that was. And so just grappling with that as a guitar player, trying to, not just wanting to play like guitar players, but trying to play the horn language, the way the guys phrase. I love Clifford Brown, I love Kenny Dorham and Miles, and then, Sonny and Coltrane and Bird and Lester Young and Yusef Lateef and all, I was just like, that's the sound that I want to, JJ, like horn players, people that were like talking. And then I listened to the piano players, like, okay, harmonically, that's where it's coming. That's where I want to be coming from. Wynton Kelly and Herbie, and just the way they got inside Monk, just trying to get in. So guitar keeps you busy, man, because you have the two elements. You have the the top, and then you have the accompaniment. So thinking like play a melody, you want to be like Miles. If you're comping, you want to be like Wynton Kelly.
Were you
Frank,
still playing?
Frank, Nelson Riddle. Like you gotta try to be both. So guitar is. But Ted Dunbar and those guys really got me into the mindset of how deep it is, on different levels. But Ted was great because he would say, don't just be one of those guitar players that only goes to other guitar players' gigs. Listen to all kinds. Only listens to guitar records. Only plays with guitar players. I mean, I play with a lot of guitar players now because I enjoy it. But Ted was like, you want to check out harmony? Hang out with piano players and arrangers, people that write for orchestras or bands and stuff, and hang out with good singers that know the words to songs. Hang out, run heads with horn players. Don't just get in the guitar world.
Right.
So check out piano players. Check everybody out.
Obviously, you learned to read music along the way, like
Well,
a horn
some
player would, right?
Yeah, not as good. I mean, because that's the thing. I realized, like, horn players learn, if they can read, they learn, that's how they have opportunities. They can play in bigger bands.
Yeah.
And they learn to phrase while they learn to play, too. To
Yeah.
play with the section and stuff. And guitar players don't have that. They go from rhythm to lead,
Yeah.
and it's kind of like...
What about that whole tablature thing? That was
Yeah.
never really, that's like
Well,
more of a rock thing?
I
or
think so,
kind
yeah.
of?
So shows you where to put your finger on what string.
I see.
It's like if you can read that, you could read music.
It's true,
Kind of.
yeah.
But the thing about reading music on the guitar that is difficult, besides just reading music being difficult itself, is where to play something. Having to kind of have some idea of what it is, so that you know, as the line or the notes you have to play go forward, how to lay it out on the guitar. There's, I guess piano is with fingering. That's an important element, because even though the notes are laid out in front of you, you have to set up your fingers in the right way. So part of reading probably is understanding, and fingering is written out for a lot of piano music.
Yeah.
So guitar, it's just you see these notes and you have to think about what the shape is. But
You have more opportunities to play the one note
Mhm.
You can play one note. How many? Like 5 different
That's
places,
right.
right?
Exactly. Depending
Like
on
even
yeah.
on the piano, that note is only going to ever be in
Middle
that
C
one
is
place.
middle C. There's three middle C's. Four. Yeah, four middle C's on the guitar. So it's
So how do you navigate that kind of thing? Is it become a personal preference, or is it like
well.
this is kind of the way you should do it, and then you could take it from there? Or
Well, sight reading is really difficult. I mean, that's the
Okay.
thing. I mean, you kind of have to recognize. I mean, it's difficult for me. I don't do it that often.
yeah,
I'll try to learn someone's music by
yeah.
sitting down with it and checking it out so I can find out. But yeah, I mean, reading on the guitar is just tricky because
But
you
I
have
mean,
to,
like even where you're going to play a melody, for instance.
Yeah.
Has that become a personal preference of where, like, this is how
Yeah.
I like to play because I like that note's got more meat
well,
to it? or
exactly.
something
Like once
that?
you know the melody, you choose the way to play it. Just the
I
way
see.
you know, it's part of phrasing,
Okay.
like how you lay onto certain syllables or certain
Yeah,
words. So
yeah.
it's very, but you do have the choice of how it's going to feel physically with your fingers. So
Mhm.
that's. But I tried to, and I had a good teacher. Well, one of my early teachers, Gene Bertensini. I met him before I even went to
Yes.
college. He was great.
He was at William Patterson.
He
right?
was
Or
later,
no,
though. I
later,
met him at
okay.
the Eastman School of Music summer camp.
Okay.
It was like a
Yeah.
3 weeks, could have been 4 weeks. It's where I met Larry Goldings. Where I
Wow.
met this guy Joey Cavacino, who
Oh,
definitely
yeah, I remember Joey.
man, he changed
Yeah.
my life, turned me on so much music, Ellington and everything.
Wow.
He's a wizard, man. And so that's where I met Larry. But that's where Gene was teaching, and you know, he was one of the first people to just encourage, you know, be encouraging, and you know, like basic stuff. And he was such a beautiful player just to
Yeah.
watch him, like complete. You know,
Yeah.
he's a poet. But he had all the students learn the scales up each string, so you're not dealing with just the shape of the, you know, like
Mhm.
the position playing. You're
Yeah.
learning how the notes are spaced going up a string. It's not
I see.
practical, but it's good for your ear to get whole steps and half steps, and also
Yeah.
to be free to like reach for intervals. You know, that's kind of an intuitive thing about playing the guitar. It's just as
Yeah.
the string gets smaller, the note gets higher.
Yeah.
So you can eradicate that notion by just doing everything in position. And but the beauty of a lot of melodies is just reaching for feeling the intervals. So I was
Okay.
glad when I started to learn songs, standards, but also try to learn to play people's ideas and stuff. Is that to have a sense of just playing horizontally
Yeah.
across the guitar. You know?
Yeah. Did you ever get into any of the stuff that Pat Martino talked about, like after he went through this stuff with his brain, like where
I did get
triad kind
yeah.
of thing,
Well,
or whatever, like
I took a lesson with Pat Martino, and
Yeah.
I went to hang with him a couple times with this beautiful guy, Tim Rogers was his name, guitar player, friend of Pat's. He passed away, unfortunately, but he brought me down there a couple times. I just loved Pat, loved hanging out with him. But he did a little bit of his. He was kind of he wanted to show us his book and stuff, so we started
Yeah.
at page 1, and he was like going through his book, and I was just like, wow, you know, this is like another way of thinking about things.
yeah,
And I was just trying to, the whole time I have to really get into it, but it's also like, how is he telling me about what I kind of already know to be true?
yeah,
About just, you know,
Yeah.
like dominant chords and minor chords and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But he had a whole thing of just way to look at how the tones are, I mean, it's
Yeah.
math, it works
Yeah.
out. You're kind of like,
yeah,
yeah. But so, you know, like it's great. It's like, it was just more like, it's so cool to see his mind work as opposed to be
Yeah.
like, I have to start thinking like that. Like,
Mhm.
only he can think like this, you know.
yeah.
So, but he was just, he's another guy I just went to see him play every time I could, you know,
Yeah.
because that was one of the guys you could see just digging in, getting a sound, you know, had his language, you know, so totally iconic, you know.
Fruitful
beautiful
kind of
guy,
time
man.
to be in New York, right? In the
Yeah.
80s and
Yeah.
the 90s. I mean, a lot of cats were still around and you still get to catch.
Yeah, well, I didn't really get to hear him till later, but there
Yeah.
were I did catch, you know, like I mean, so many people like who moved to New York later just missed out on, you never got to hear Tommy,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
or Tommy Flanagan or Hank Jones or people like that, or even Billy Higgins passed away in
That's right.
2000 year. I mean, so
I
I
get to
hear
see him a little bit.
Yeah,
like
I
with
saw
Jackie
him a
and
lot,
Cedar,
all the
yeah.
time. And Jackie, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of people never, you know.
Did you ever get to see Dexter Gordon? I never
Once
did.
I saw
no.
him play at Carnegie Hall, where he played a David Baker tenor saxophone concerto or
You
something
really?
like that. I was like,
Wow.
somebody, I think it's like, you want to go see Dexter play the saxophone concerto? I'm like, saxophone concerto? It's like, I don't care. I want to
Oh
see
my
Dexter.
gosh, wow.
But it was, I don't remember much about the piece. I'm sure it was
Yeah.
cool. It was just odd to see him, like, you wanted to
Yeah.
see Dexter play, it's you or no one or something, you know.
Exactly.
But he played, it was his sound, and he did, it was just
Yeah.
to see him, like, but, no, he was great.
I had a
Yeah.
chance in college, and one of those dumb reasons, like I didn't have enough
Ah.
money to go.
Oh, man,
And
yeah.
then 3 months later, he passed away, man. That was it. That's one of the regrets of my life.
1990,
To
man,
not
yeah.
being in the same room to hear that sound, man.
Yeah, that's
You
the
know?
thing. Yeah, I did hear it in Carnegie Hall, which wasn't ideal, but
Hmm.
he was playing.
Yeah.
But I got to see some people in Paris too, which I was very lucky.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
to like I saw Benny Carter there a couple times, and just stuff that would come through there that you might not see in New York. Like
Yeah.
once I saw Freddie McCoy, Reggie Workman, and Elvin
Wow.
quartet at this club, Magnetic Terrace. I saw Blakey there a few. I saw Blakey in New York too, but Blakey
Yeah.
came to Paris a few times, and so it was great to be there because I
Kenny
got to
Clark
see.
It was already passed.
He died in
Yeah.
'85. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I missed him. And I missed Philly Joe too. I know I was at Rutgers, brought him out, but that was
Yeah.
before I got there. But I didn't get to hear him play.
Me neither.
But yeah, no, I did see a lot of people like Elvin and Max Roach a bunch of times. And,
Wow.
like,
Yeah.
So it's just yeah, you forget.
So then you're done with college. You're here. You're
Yeah,
kind of
I had
like
no
starting
intention
to
of
do
leaving.
Stuff, right?
Yeah,
And
I
you're on the
guess, yeah.
scene. You started.
Yeah.
You kind of crisscross first. Was that the first
Yeah, it
record
was-
label or?
Yeah, well, the
Or-
first time I got to record was actually with Larry and Bill Stewart,
Okay.
and also with Lou Donaldson.
Oh, no kidding.
Actually, on the same day, I had 2 record dates. Actually, on the same day, 2 days in a row. I think it was like December 19th, 20th, sometime towards the end of December, right before Christmas in 1990. And Larry and Bill and I had started to play, and this guy Stefan Miner had a label that produced Maceo Parker's record, and he said, "Larry, you have a band too, right? You guys want to make a record?" So it was through this guy David Baker,
Yes.
the other David Baker, the
Okay.
engineer.
Yeah.
And he kind of got us to record. So we had this record date at, we went to like, I think, Sears, or maybe Sound on Sound, some studio in Midtown,
Mm-hmm.
and that was like 11 to 4. And then Lou Donaldson had this record date, and he happened to call me for the same days, but he said it starts at 6.
Mm.
So I'm like, yeah, I can do it, because I just to get to 57th Street, NOLA Penthouse from
There it
48th
starts.
Street, and so I was like, I never made a record before. Now I'm making 2. I have 2 record dates on the same day, 2 days. Like both were 2-day sessions. That was
Wow.
kind of a luxury, to have 2 days to make a record. But yeah, the group with Larry and Bill, it was just really, he'd never really been around a real organ before, and there was an organ in the studio, and he's like he
Talking
says
about Larry.
Goldings,
Yeah.
he had some switch on, like the vibrato switch on the whole time, and he wasn't supposed to do that, so he's embarrassed about that record. But it was our first time, like, all right, rolling, like
Yeah.
playing, and like we had done some little recording in studios, like demo tapes, but this was going to be a record,
Mm-hmm.
And then to be with Lou and Dr. Lonnie Smith and Bernard Purdy was the drummer on
Oh
that
my
date.
gosh.
And it was Bob Porter was kind of producing it, and it was called Play the Right Thing. Lou had some minor blues called Play the Right Thing,
Yeah.
and did like a couple other tunes. Maybe Marmaduke was on there,
Oh wow.
and we did. I had the Craziest Dream and some
Oh,
other
wow.
stuff. It's a kind of a blur to me, but those are the ones I remember. And
Wow, that's amazing.
yeah,
man.
it was wild, man. So that was I was pretty young. I was 20. I just turned 23.
Yep.
So now I'm like, maybe I'm on 2 records. And then I got to record with some other guys. Michael Hashim had me on one of his record days.
Yeah.
The first time I played with LaDon on organ,
Oh wow.
and Kenny Washington.
Yeah.
And then kind of crisscross thing happened because I was playing at Village Gate, and Brian Lynch was doing a record date. He was bringing Melvin Ryan in from Milwaukee,
Yep.
where they all lived and met
Mhm.
and played together. And it was just him and Ralph Moore and Melvin and Kenny Washington.
Wow.
And they didn't have a guitar player. And I think Melvin asked Brian, hey, who's playing guitar? And then we don't have a guitar player.
Yeah.
And so somehow, like, just the timing was like Jerry Teakins and Brian. Let's go hear this. Maybe I don't know if Kenny said. I don't know
Yeah.
how they came in there, but they're like, I knew Brian a little bit, and then they just said, hey, we're doing this record day next week with Melvin Ryan. Can you make this day for rehearsal and this day to record? I was like, okay. Then that was my introduction to Crisscross.
Wow.
And we did that date with Brian. And then the next, at the end of that date, which was like a long day, I don't remember, like a long session. Like
Yeah.
kinda, we had a rehearsal, but there was some complicated music or whatever. And I don't remember much about the date, but the end of the date, Teekins was like, hey, Melvin, you want to come back tomorrow and make a trio record with these guys? Like, you know, can you, and like, asked all of us, can you come in tomorrow?
Yeah.
So there was no rehearsal for that date. We just
Wow.
came in the next day. I just played some tunes that Melvin wanted to play.
Yeah.
So that's it. So in those 2 days, I was on 2 Crisscross records.
Wow.
You know, and that was '91, probably December of '91, because he always came in December. So
That's right.
that was the beginning of that. And then the next, I think, 2 years later, or I don't remember it being. I was on other dates before. I know Melvin did another date with Joshua Redmond and
Okay.
Kenny. And I think
That's
around that
before-
time I got to.
before Warner Brothers.
Oh, yeah.
Joshua. Yeah.
Well, Josh was just kind of getting in there.
Just
Yeah, he was
kinda
in there
getting-
already.
yeah.
It was '93, I think. I think that might have been the same year that he let me do my own date with Cobb and Weber and Melvin. That was
Okay.
my first record because we had played it. Yeah, Cobb I had met at the New School, and you know,
Yeah.
he said, "You guys get some gigs, I'll play." So we just, let's get some gigs and play with Cobb, you know. So
And then it became Cobb's Mob later.
yeah,
Right?
yeah, because yeah.
Yeah.
But the first, we got a week at the gate with Meldow and Weber, and that was the first time I played a week.
Wow.
You know,
Webbs and Meldow.
Fun, man. Really fun.
You got a
Yeah.
couple of years on me before. Well, I moved later
Yeah.
to New York, but like.
Yeah, you were older a little bit. You were already 30 or something, or
No, I'm saying you have a couple of years
yeah,
on me.
yeah,
So like I was about 27 when I moved
Mhm.
here, but I had been coming down doing
Right.
Augies with
right,
Barnes.
right,
Like
right,
in the mid '90s, he'd be calling
right,
me.
yeah,
But '90, I was still in school at that. Like I
Right.
was a sophomore, or
Right.
junior. Yeah.
high school,
No, in college.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
So
So you're born 70.
we had already been
You're born
hearing.
in
Yeah,
70.
1970.
Okay, yeah,
But we had been hearing about you already, you know, and especially through our mutual friend Scott.
Of course,
bless his
man.
soul, but like.
that's
You
right.
know,
He was
you
there
were
at
here.
Augie's in the early days. You
That's
know,
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
he was
So
right there, man.
I think
yeah.
I probably met you there.
Probably,
somewhere
yeah.
at some
So you
point.
guys knew each other from Hartford. Scott went to
He
Hartford.
he studied with Jackie, yeah. He was one of the
Yeah, I
few
knew that.
guitar
I knew
players
that.
that was ever in the
Yeah.
saxophone class.
Right.
Like he'd be there playing too, like
right.
in the early
Who taught
class.
guitar there at that time?
I think Randy Johnson
Oh,
at some point he
could be, yeah.
became the
That could be.
teacher. But
Wow.
it's funny though, you know, like
There weren't many
cats
guitar
that
players,
went
yeah.
there for drums and stuff, they didn't have a drum teacher.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
it
like
was just
like
Scott.
Jackie would bring in AT, and they get
Right.
together with AT,
Yeah.
and guys would go see Alan Dawson on
Right,
their
right,
own,
right.
or come down here and see K Wash.
It was
or-
about
yeah.
Jackie. The program was
Pretty
about
much,
Jackie.
yeah.
Yeah, of course, man.
But it just goes to show you like how much you really got to get together on your own, right? I mean,
Yeah.
people kind of put you on this course, but
Right.
like
Right.
80% of the work you got to do it, right?
Yeah.
No matter what school you go to
Totally,
or what.
man. I think
Yeah.
it's almost like bad to have a teacher that's too dominant for you.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Like I
yeah.
think, I don't know. There's examples of people that are, because they study with so and so,
Yeah,
they become little so and so.
yeah,
You know,
yeah, yeah,
and that's cool.
yeah.
Like, but jazz is not about that. Jazz is about filtering a lot of influences and figuring out who you are. You know,
Exactly.
what's your special blend of what it is.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, I was lucky to go to those different schools and see those they were personalities, they were characters, man.
Yeah.
Ted,
Yeah,
Kenny Barrett in his own quiet way. You know,
Yeah.
these are like strong people. They're like, they're in their natural environment.
exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's
yeah.
what you kind of learn about people that would come in. Benny Carter, he was, just, you know what I mean? Like they have this, you know, I don't know how to say if the word is weight or gravitas is
Aura
kind of
or
a.
something like
There's a
that.
certain like
Yeah.
I'm this person,
Yeah,
Jackie Byard, you know, like a
Exactly,
character, and then you could be you know, just like it's just like being around strong personalities,
Mhm.
like makes you realize like, oh shit, you can't just follow. You'd be following a different person every
Exactly,
week or every
yeah.
day.
yeah,
And the point is like, what makes that person like?
yeah.
There gives them their humanity, you know. So just see like, you know, Jim Hall with certain demeanor, aesthetic. That's the kind of person he was. It was connected with the instrument disappears. You know,
Yeah.
if you once you're kind of,
Exactly.
you know,
Yeah.
Bobby Hutcherson, they just have a vibe when they're not even playing, and then they play, and you're just like,
Same
it's
thing.
just like just breathing. You know, so that's Dr. Lonnie was that way. It's just like
Mm-hmm.
the music came out of that person. So, and that was a thing too. Just like being around Lonnie and Lou, they couldn't be more different kind of people and characters. And just to see them like come together, it's like, well,
Yeah.
where do I fit into that? Because
Yeah.
those guys had this, you know, such a vibe between them, and you just kind of felt
Right.
invisible. But that was okay. That was, you know, I'm just like that. That's because wow, these guys are really, they don't give a fuck, you know, and that's really beautiful. And it takes a while before you can, even if you notice that the thing you need to do is be like play, you're just like, what the fuck?
Mm-hmm.
Not in a careless, not learn the music, not care about what you're playing, but in a way that like, I'm just gonna deal with this whatever I'm playing,
Yeah.
song, blues, one chord, no chords, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
whatever material, I'm just gonna deal with this, say what the fuck, and not be like
Yeah.
whatever about what comes out. You gotta be like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You can say, I know, I need to learn how to say what the fuck. Tonight I'm gonna say what the fuck. But it could be like many, many years before you start to mean it a little bit.
Right.
You know what I mean? You can
Right.
say it and be
Right.
like, but then you always have to make sure you're not going into the area of like saying what the fuck and thinking that it doesn't take even more diligent,
Right.
you know, specific work, you know, to kind of
Yeah.
keep honing your stuff, you know, and
Yeah.
if you're gonna hone it, well, what is it? You know,
Mhm.
you have to know what it is to know what it is you're even trying to, you know,
Right.
attempt to perfect that word being totally,
Yeah.
you know, way beyond what you could ever hope to get. And there's no perfect, you know, just
Yeah.
so you just get a little closer. I just figure like if I can get to where I'm playing less of the stuff that I hate and a little more of the stuff that I like, that's improvement, right? If I can just be like, I'm playing less of that dumb shit that I really wish I would, you know what I mean? Like, if I can do less of that, hey,
But
that's
your
something.
dumb shit probably sounds real good.
No,
to me,
it's
man.
not even. It's just. It's no. It's just like the, you know, where you're kind of just ahead of yourself. You know.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
my new mantra with improvising. It's like, don't play something else until you're finished playing the thing you're.
I see.
You know, don't start something new until you've explored this. You know, finish this before you start something.
Mm.
That's kind of sometimes the more complex the music gets, the more your head gets away from that sentiment of,
Yeah.
like, oh, there's this sound or this 6/4 measure I have to, you know, like you kind of start
Right.
thinking instead of just kind of like, you know, what's important, like keep a flow, finish an idea, get, you know, express this thought, express another thought, you know.
Mhm. Like having a conversation, man,
Yeah.
but but not being the kind of guy that's just talking over people all the time. Maybe or
That's a huge
there's some
thing.
listening involved, right?
That's the thing that gets more as you get further away from being a student
Yeah.
and more about playing with people. You realize that's what it's about.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing.
In a certain
Conversation.
way, I always just, and this is not to diss any person or Mr. the great Jamie Aebersold himself, but I didn't grow up with having that stuff to play with.
Right.
And I always would tell students, like, if you're going to play, like, try to find just one other musician to play with.
Yeah.
Even
No.
if it's just a bass player or
Yeah.
just a sax and drums, whatever it is, because, I mean, you could get into this mindset of, like,
Yeah.
you know, just playing all your crap all the time, and then you get on the
Right.
bandstand, you're doing the same thing.
Right.
You're just running all
Well, that's the
this
thing.
stuff.
That's a weird experience to play in, and it
Yeah.
sounds a lot like what it really sounds like, except there's the crucial element, which is like the rhythm section can't respond to you.
Exactly.
So if you play with really great cats, that's the first thing that you realize when you play. It's like, oh shit, they're
Yeah.
on
an
my
organic
stuff,
thing,
you know.
right? Yeah.
Whereas like, you know, the record, whatever it is,
Yeah.
it can't be that because those
Right.
guys just laying some shit down.
Right.
So once the rhythm section enters into your, you know, idea as, you know, playing a little solo, which is like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm out front, supposedly telling the story, leading the
Mhm.
story, you know. It's my story, you know. You guys
Right.
can, that's the. But then that's the thing. those kind of things, those practice things do get people in the mindset of just like playing stuff over
Yeah.
other stuff.
Yeah.
But the other stuff is supposed to be connected to what you're doing and vice versa. So it's just like, yeah, that's the thing.
And it's like it could be totally different from day to day. You're not always going to hit a home run every time you take a solo, right?
That's right.
Sometimes all you need to do is bunt the guy over from
Yeah.
first to second or whatever.
Right.
I don't, you know what I mean? Like, I'm
Yeah.
just saying, like, it can't, not every solo needs to go to that same place emotionally
That's true.
as well,
That's
too,
true.
right? I mean,
That's true.
although you're one of the cats, and I've told you before, like, I've never heard you play a bad note. It feels like when I played with you, I'm like, how did you do it, man? Like, how, I don't know.
I don't know
It's
if
like,
that, I mean,
it just,
trying to-
everything sounds placed in the right place.
Yeah.
The notes sound right harmonically. I'm like, what the hell, man? How
I don't
can
know.
you be this good? But I don't
well,
know.
I think improvising is to try to find the balance between like being spontaneous, because that's like the thing about improvisation.
Yeah.
That's the freedom you have, is you don't have to like play your shit over and
Mhm.
over again. It's like, and people that do, and everybody does to a degree, but
Of course.
the concept of like, I'm just gonna play my, we're playing a blues in F, I'm gonna play my F blues shit, you know.
Mhm.
So if you do that, you're kind of like, in a way, you're just like pissing on the beautiful freedom and privilege you have
Mhm.
to improvise and play anything you want.
Mm.
You know, like if you kind of like think of like, you know, musicians who are in orchestra who have to play what they're
Yeah.
given to play. You know, you have this freedom. You can play anything. You could play nothing. You could,
Mhm.
you know, you could, so obviously that's spontaneity. But see, you can also, you have to balance that with like playing anything could be very confusing, because people are like,
Mhm.
what is he trying to say? So you have to be clear too. Clarity is important with improvisation. So you're trying to, I mean, with playing a solo. So
Yeah.
you're trying to balance clarity with spontaneity. Like, and
Yeah.
how do you not sacrifice spontaneity for like, to be clear? Do I have to play the same thing all the time?
Yeah.
Because that might be clear, but I'm kind of sacrificing the spontaneous. But you don't want to sacrifice the clarity. So I'm just being spontaneous. It's like, well,
Yeah.
what language were you speaking? Like, what
Right.
we, you know, so you also want to, you're trying to balance those things of like projecting something that's,
Yeah.
could be taken in, but also have it feel like you're on the edge of like, I'm trying to discover this too. Because that's what I liked about hearing certain people like Bobby Hutcherson. Like, as much as they played their stuff, there was always this feeling of like, I'm going for the next thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, there's that tension from the energy of like, is he gonna make it? Like, where is he going with this idea? You know,
Yeah.
and that's the thing, the cast that really,
It's exciting.
so,
man.
yeah, because if you can get into the mindset of not expecting to hear the usual acrobatics and just try to follow someone's train of thought, like, wow, like you say, that every solo has to be,
Mhm.
has to end with a triple whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it could be like, oh, that's that kind of story.
Mm.
And that story ends this way. And
Makes
that's
you-
okay.
still makes you
Yeah.
think, right?
But it was
Yeah.
something that had a shape to it that's like, to me, that's like, I don't know, that's a deeper thing than with what you see a lot of cats now, because of the incredible level of virtuosity
Yeah.
on every instrument,
Yeah.
is that guys are going for like the effect of, you know,
Yeah.
applause.
Yeah.
And to be like to do feats of strength, you know, and
Mhm.
stuff. But sometimes, I mean, I actually try. How can I try to like end the solo where it's not appropriate to applaud? Like, I like that when that
Yeah.
happens. Another guy starts to take over, and people don't applaud, and I feel it's like, that's good, because they're maybe listening. You know what I mean? It's not like serving them some kind of thing. Okay, applaud now. Like the sign
I
goes
feel
up. You know?
better now
Yeah.
after all those
Well,
songs that
I'm
nobody
working on it.
claps
I'm
for.
working on it. I'm working on never getting applause. Like, I think
Oh
that's
my
the way to
gosh.
go. Because I can't go the other way. I can't get the house. So I'm trying to just like, maybe I can just.
But it depends on the environment
Well,
too,
that's
for that, right?
that's totally right.
Like, you would think in New York City, like, okay, the audiences are super hip, but
Right.
then
Yeah.
more and more I go and hang at
Yeah.
like a Smalls even.
Yeah.
You realize that a lot of the people there are not even New Yorkers. They're really
Right.
they're visiting.
Right.
They're
Right.
just excited to see anybody play
Right.
something live. So it's very.
Yeah. That's
it's almost like
encouraging.
going into a recital in a way.
Yeah.
Like, it's so encouraging to
Yeah.
to the performers.
Yeah.
But almost
Which
in
is
a way,
nice,
it
yeah.
could be a little bit
Yeah.
Like you could take it the wrong way as a musician too.
Mhm.
I think.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
it's like, wait a minute. Am I?
Well, you know the one
am I
guy that
doing-
comes to the gigs and he's really loud, like
Yeah.
yeah. I love that
He's
guy.
a good friend of
Yeah,
mine.
I love
actually.
him.
I
He's
know
the
that
greatest
guy.
cat, but
Reggie.
he does affect the music because
Exactly.
when he's there, he's actually making sounds that are now part of the whole
It's
sound.
true.
You
It's
know?
true.
And also, if he's there and he's only yelling out like 5 or 6 times instead of like 20 times,
Yeah.
then you're kind of like, damn, I don't know, maybe it wasn't happening. Like audience will start to they'll make you think that.
But it could change
now
from
we
audience
expect-
to audience
that's true,
there, right?
that's true.
Like you could
It's-
you do 2 sets, one audience is so into
That's
everything.
beautiful. That's the
and then
beauty. That's the
second one is
beauty
just
of it to
completely
me.
different. Yeah.
That's the beauty of it to me. Is just to like, that's the challenge. Is like, can you be in this moment all the way? You know, it sounds totally like some new age crap, but
No, it's true.
as an improviser, you could be like, not as much as possible, drop my agenda of like this is what I have to say, this is how I have to behave to be thought of to be clever, or dashing, or
Yeah.
whatever, or this, or whatever,
Yeah.
however you perceive that you would like to be perceived. So once you start going down that road, you're getting into the
Yeah.
ego suck of it instead of the part that's just kind of like, let me just try to humbly put before people what I can and really try to invent something. And even if it goes nowhere, someone will appreciate the attempt to construct something. And like, to me, it's like practicing, because a lot of students are like, what should you practice? You know, how do I think you have to spend some time just like doing little improvisation exercises where you just like take a random thing and try to go with it. It's almost like not important to like, okay, now this is part of my bag. Kind of like I'm playing some stuff that now I have to remember to play again. It's more like, can I just follow this idea and put limitations on myself? Like Jim Hall used to have a great exercise, like where he'd say, just play a solo based on one interval. So you're trying to think about hearing the changes and the harmony, the form, whatever, but you only have, the choices are very limited. You have to go up a fourth or down a fourth. So it just takes your mind away from, okay, how do I appear to be at my cleverest and wittiest, you know?
Yeah.
So anything that can take you out of that, and practicing is a lot of like, making that automatic.
Exactly.
You know, so if you can practice where you're just like doing the opposite, distract me from playing the things that I'm tempted to play, and just how much can you just follow this one thing? And
So like you're getting away from the muscle memory.
exactly,
almost, right?
exactly, and just improving the connective thinking of like, I think of something and I can play it.
Yeah.
And people think like technique is like only doing hard stuff. I think like part of technique is like doing some new stuff. You know, and it doesn't have to be, just having it come out exactly the way you thought, or the way you hoped it would.
Yeah.
And recognizing those, like, that's a small miracle when that happens. It's like, because people, I think they play a lot. It's almost like to prove to themselves that they do have technique.
Yeah.
Like guitar players, I can see some guys playing, and they start out playing a lot of notes. Second chorus is a lot of notes, more notes. Like, why do you ask them? Like, I want to ask them, why do you keep playing so? Are you afraid you're going to lose your chops in the middle of the solo?
Yeah.
Like you're just playing to confirm, like, oh, I thought I was, getting old. Like, no, you just started to play like 2 minutes ago. You're not gonna lose your chops. It's gonna happen gradually, slowly over time. It's not gonna. You don't have to keep reminding yourself you can play. So it's like, but think about what kind of story are you telling to people? It's just like, I can play a lot of stuff, and I can keep playing a lot of stuff, and that's like the story of every time they start to play. It's like, I'd rather be like, he was doing nothing. But if you listen closer, it's like he was trying to do a little something with a little something instead of like. But if it sounds like nothing, that's good. That means that person's listening for bells and whistles or some kind of displays of, if I can totally avoid those things, I might get to it might sound bad and be boring, but I can get to a pure place of like connecting. It's like, what does it really mean to actually improvise instead of just like trying to lay out all your stuff in an attractive way, so. I don't know. I need to spend more time practicing and less time talking about practicing and thinking about it.
I don't know,
but
man. I don't
no.
know. This is inspiring to me, man.
No, man.
Because
Thanks, man.
we saxophonists.
Yeah.
are moving our fingers a lot as well.
Well,
I mean, it's like sometimes you do have to think about. I mean,
but that's
Jay
about
Mack is talking about sing. He's like singing through the horn.
right, right,
But I mean, hold a note, right?
right.
Leave
Yeah.
some space.
Yeah, space is part of it, man. Space is part of the whole layout. When nothing is happening, when a movie just has like a shot of nothing. That's not random. It's to control the pace and the flow of action. So if it's all action all the time,
Yeah.
you know.
The trick
But
is
that's
trying
why
to
I
get
love.
4 people playing together.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no. What you're saying about singing, like, the thing about the
4 people
saxophone is like
together?
it's coming out of your mouth, man.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
coming. It's like something, and I always
Yeah.
like. I envy that as a guitarist, where just I pluck, and then the note is already decaying. Basically that's the guitar. It's like the note is at its loudest when you first play it, so you have to deal
Well,
with
just
that
turn the
reality.
distortion up to 10.
After you, yeah, then it will stay for a while.
Yeah.
Wow. No, but I mean, it's like it's just physically happening. Like, just to hold a note takes work.
Yeah.
But the idea of like a saxophone or trumpet or any instrument that just comes out of your face, it's got it. The best saxophone players, the best horn players are talking to you. They're like singers, and that's what I always wanted to emulate with horn players. It's just like
Yeah.
try to sing, try not to put the same production on every note.
Yeah.
It's not like then you talk like a robot that
Right.
doesn't have any sense of what they're saying. So saxophone, like the guys that are, because it's probably not hard to move your fingers.
No.
What makes you control the instrument is having control of your thoughts
Yeah.
and then projecting them out of your mouth, because
Yeah.
that's really what it's about. So
The tongue is like the pick for you because that's where
Right.
the articulation's
Exactly.
coming from. So then you
Exactly.
got to figure out a way to coordinate that with this
I see.
and the breath. Yeah. So,
Right.
But we all got our things that
Of
we
course,
deal with.
yeah. Oh, that's a lot, because you have to be relaxed.
Yeah. Yeah. I wanted to ask you, man. 'Cause you said you met Goldings like at the Eastman camp, maybe,
Mhm.
and then you were in school with Bill Stewart. So when did you guys
Yeah.
decide let's do this thing, man?
Well, we
'Cause
had,
you've been doing it for a long.
We started
time.
playing at Augie's. They started playing at Augie's
Mm-hmm.
before I was actually back in New York. How we doing on time? We're cool.
Yeah, 2:05.
Oh, I gotta go pretty soon because
You
I
do?
gotta get my son.
Okay.
We
You want to
had-
just complete this thought? and
Sure,
then-
sure, yeah, sorry. We started. The first jazz group that came. Well, I don't want to say first because guys were playing at Augie's. There was an old piano up in there, and then that got taken out, and I think there was like some folk singers. But then Leon Parker started the music there. Like,
Okay.
started his thing, and he would play on the weekends. And I think I don't know when it started exactly, but there was no keyboard there, and Leon's bass player didn't show up or couldn't show up that night, so he called Goldings to bring an organ. Like,
Okay.
can you play bass lines? So Larry concocted some thing, like he brought this Moog thing for a bass, and he just had a little setup that he was able to. And this was happening, they kind of started playing with Jesse Davis, and that was the trio. And then I came back and they didn't have a guitar player, so I kind of started playing with them on the weekends.
Okay.
And then it kind of like Jesse got the weekends, and me and Larry got Thursdays, and Leon got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. They just split up the week. I don't know, remember any of that
Yeah.
or how it happened, but because I would play with Jesse sometimes, but then he got his own band, and we had Thursdays, and we would play with different drummers,
Okay.
Larry and I, different guys, Andy Watson a lot, Jimmy Madison sometimes, who
Yeah.
lived close to Augie's, and then I had met Bill at William Patterson, and so I was like, yeah, maybe Bill, that'd be good, and Bill and Larry had met at some session, so Bill was in town for like 3 Thursdays, so
Where's Bill living at?
he was living in Sunset Park, where he still has
Oh,
a
okay,
place. Yeah,
right,
he was.
okay.
We had just moved to New York after graduating from William Patterson. So that was the beginning of a band, and then those guys knew David Baker, or David Baker knew Bill. Then I think the guy who was going to produce Maceo's record was looking for an organ player, and so Bill recommended Larry. So David Baker came down to hear us.
Yeah.
He says, "Well, you guys as a trio have a nice band." He told Stefan about it. Stefan Miner, that's how he was able to
Okay.
record after we had been playing for like 6 months or so.
Okay. Yeah.
So
But that group is still together, like 30
yeah,
plus years
yeah,
later,
we
right?
still. Well, I mean, yeah, we're still playing. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, there was many years we didn't play that much, but we always had something happening and got a chance to record for different labels. So
That's
it's an amazing thing that it's ongoing after
Do you guys
Yeah.
have conversations like we were just talking about how you think about improvisation and
Never.
or how you want the music to go?
Not really.
No.
We don't really talk about it. We just kind of
kinda happens.
talk about tunes we want to play,
Okay.
or music that we like and stuff like that. But there never was really a talk about do this
Yeah.
here unless it was a specific thing
Yeah.
that the music was written. But yeah, and it's evolved where it's like not. It's a democracy.
Yeah.
There's really no leader. We did things under Larry's name. I did a crisscross record where I called those guys.
Yeah.
Most of the drummers know us from the Bill Stewart Trio Modern Drummer video.
Oh, okay.
That they did some gig and they filmed it. And there's so many drummers say, I saw you in this video when I was 12. So embarrassing. But that was 97. So
Wow,
these guys
yeah.
are not even babies anymore. They're
Right,
30s.
Right,
So
right.
such a blessing to be able to, it's like, because we always get to play with different guys or pick up things, and
Mhm.
you meet some guys and you play with them, and that's a beautiful thing. It's like we can play with guys we've never met before. We just
Yeah.
find some common ground and just go.
Yeah.
But to have that in contrast with some guys you've been playing with for 35 years,
Yeah.
it's a nice thing that like now I can experience both situations that it happens, because it's still
It's great.
still social. It's still a social thing, no matter if you know these guys like
Yeah.
forever and have your things with them, like family, good and whatever. Like we just go so far back. At this point, it's like it's just a miracle we can do this. I mean, can you imagine having a band that you got together in like 1950 and learned some tunes and got to make some records, and then 1985 and you're still playing like
Yeah.
some of the same tunes? It's comical, But I guess between 1990 and now is not the same as 50 to 85, but
Well, yeah. Well,
different thing. I mean,
depends
imagine,
on when you grew up.
how much the music changed between
Oh my
1950. There was no rock and roll in 1950. It's
No.
like that was a whole different world.
Yeah.
I mean,
P,
amazing,
I
right?
was hoping that to get you to play the guitar.
I know, man, but
we might have to do a part 2.
let's
We might
do
have
it.
to a
Let's
part
do it,
2.
man. I'm
Thank
sorry
you
I talk so much,
I
man.
got questions. I got like guitar questions.
Oh
wanna
yeah,
ask
I
you.
gotta hear you play, man.
Oh no, not to hear me play. But I just have questions. But for people that want to get a hold of you, man, what's the best way for them to?
Oh,
You're still a website guy.
I have my website, peterbernsteinmusic.com,
Bernsteinmusic.com.
and I'm
Yeah.
on Facebook. I mean, I'm out there.
Facebook. Okay.
Regular
Instagram
appearances.
will get you on there.
I gotta get on that. I know. That makes me an old guy.
Thank you so
automatically.
much,
Thank
man,
you,
for
man.
coming today, man.
Beautiful
We're gonna
to
do a
talk to
part
you.
2,
Right on.
folks.
All right.